best part of the draft. Everybody knows everything. Everybody knows every player's height. Everybody knows every player's weight. Everybody knows who's getting drafted where. It's almost like everybody's in the fucking studio room in the back with a headset on. Everybody knows. NFL draft, always one of the better parts of this season, depending on who you are. Quite a few quarterbacks, obviously, as per usual in the draft. The first couple of picks are usually self-explanatory. And then after that, it gets interesting, especially around 4. The Falcons, why would they need a quarterback? The Bengals, Dolphins, Lions, and etc. Some teams willing to trade up. I do not think that this is the final draft order. Most likely it will change at some point, either today, tomorrow, or Thursday during the draft. However, this is the NFL draft, or the NFL draft preview, excuse me, hit the like button, subscribe, and go nowhere else. The number 1 pick is usually almost predetermined. It feels like it's predetermined. A lot of times, the number 1 pick, everybody has their eyes on the best player in the draft, and that won't change this year. The Jaguars have the number 1 pick, and you want to talk about a team that has not had a quarterback since the beginning of time. It would be a team like the Jaguars. Blake Bortles, no good. The list goes on. A lot of quarterbacks that just never worked out for Jacksonville, and they have the number 1 prospect in the draft, and that's Trevor Lawrence. The Jacksonville Jaguars are almost 99.9% taking Trevor Lawrence, quarterback out of Clemson. And, I want to make a mention here. I have the first couple of guys that are projected to go, and then after that, I talk about what the team needs. I don't have a projected, like, for pick number 30, let's say this. I don't have a projected pick for that, so saying I wouldn't have a name, but I would just have a position that the team would probably go for. Trevor Lawrence, number 1 to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think that is self-explanatory. Number 2 would be the New York Jets. If there's any team that won towards the end of the season that a lot of people frowned upon them doing so, it would be their fan base, the New York Jets. Looking at Zach Wilson, quarterback. Yes, definitely a quarterback after Sam Darnold is gone now. He's in Carolina. They got some picks out of it. That wasn't the greatest trade for the Jets, but they realized that, we knew that regardless of what was happening with Sam Darnold, the Jets were taking a quarterback anyway. But Zach Wilson is the framed man here. And number 3 is the 49ers, who actually traded up, I believe, a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, Jimmy Garoppolo is their quarterback, but it looks like that they will potentially be going after what a lot of people are saying is Justin Fields. Justin Fields could be brought in for competition, but he most likely won't start. I don't see Justin Fields starting over Jimmy Garoppolo. The 49ers could always not draft a quarterback, but I think at the number 3 spot, I think that's what everybody would go for. You got to look at, too, Jimmy Garoppolo is one of those quarterbacks where he's a good quarterback, but he's not consistent. He gets hurt, makes mistakes in crunch time. And the 49ers might be bringing in a quarterback just to prepare for the end of Jimmy G, because Jimmy G is not necessarily a guy that can be relied on for 16 games a season. The Falcons at number 4 is a little bit interesting. There's a lot of rumors about them going for Trey Lance, a quarterback. I think personally the Falcons should trade down and build around their defense. Any quarterback that gets drafted by the Falcons is not beating out Matt Ryan. We know that the Matt Ryan era in Atlanta is probably going to be coming to an end soon. But despite that, I don't think that a team like the Falcons needs a quarterback now. They do have the number 4 pick. They could get a lot of a lot of teams that are at a higher space. A team like maybe New England, a team like maybe Pittsburgh that would be potentially willing to trade up. They have a lot of clout and power with the number 4 pick. So if a team like Atlanta would be willing to trade down and build around their defense, which is definitely a problem, but also even if you were not to get a quarterback at number 4, almost any other position player would be available. That's another thing to look at. Just because they have the number 4 pick doesn't mean that they would get a quarterback. If I was Atlanta, I would trade down, but then again, if you look at the power of having the number 4 pick, you may think otherwise. Cincinnati Bengals. The team should probably draft a tackle for protection. Or some people are saying that they could gamble on a receiver. Obviously, the Bengals have lost A.J. Green. He's an unrestricted free agent. They could never get him to stay on the field. A great receiver a few years ago when he's healthy, but hasn't really found that stride since. Joe Burrow's protection will be very crucial. I forgot off the top of my head how many times he was sacked last year. But the team like the Bengals could definitely use a tackle. And then we get to number 6, the Dolphins. What would a team like the Dolphins need? Some people are saying that they could quarterback gamble. I don't see that. I don't see the Falcons. I don't see the Dolphins going for a quarterback gamble. There's a lot of different guys. I think the Dolphins need weapons. They need weapons to help out Tua. I think they should get a target. The Dolphins should be looking at maybe a wide receiver, a tight end. I think obviously one of the best prospects in this draft is Kyle Pitts, the number one tight end for sure in the draft. But a team like the Dolphins, I could definitely see him snagging Kyle Pitts. That might be who I would go for. You know, Gesicki's an okay tight end, but is he a franchise tight end? Probably not, depending on who you ask. But I would definitely go with, for a team like the Dolphins, I don't think they should quarterback gamble. They should get targets around Tua. The receiving core is not what it was. There's potential there, but it's not what it was. Number 7 is the Lions, and that's an interesting one. I've heard that the Lions are willing to trade back. And I don't know why a team like the Lions would trade back, considering the fact that if anybody needs draft picks, it's them. Their entire defense is non-existent. They now will downgrade. Yes, I did say downgrade. They will downgrade from Matthew Stafford to Jared Goff. Team said they're open to trading a pick, or they can snag a lineman. The Lions need a whole new defense. So I can't sit here and tell you this would be XYZ, because a team like the Lions needs a whole new defense. They need a whole entire new defense. So could they trade back? Yeah, but, you know, the Lions are just a lost cause. I'm sorry. Number 8, the Panthers. Team said they may gamble on a quarterback. Do they believe in Teddy Bridgewater? The team needs better run blocking, but they're open to trading down. Sam Darnold's coming in. Who their starting quarterback for Carolina is going into the season, nobody can sit here and tell you that, but I can tell you this. It's not set on Bridgewater, and it's not set on Darnold. Better run blocking. Christian McCaffrey was abused last year before his injury. I think that the team should look at a lineman if they're to keep the number 8 pick. They're also open to trading down, but I think a lineman is something that Carolina might need to go for. I don't think there's any need to go for a quarterback. I don't know why the team like Carolina would draft a quarterback when you still have Bridgewater, who you're iffy on, and you just signed Sam Darnold. I think quarterback shouldn't really be a concern. And then we have a team that has a lot that could be done. A team like the Denver Broncos at number 9, could they trade up for a quarterback? The team also needs a corner. Their corners, their depth in the secondary is not what it was. However, I could see a team like Denver trading up. Are they going to release Drew Lock? No. But are they confident enough to carry that Drew Lock can carry the Broncos through another season, especially that the team has started to build around him quite well? I could definitely see a team like the Broncos trading up for a quarterback. We look at some of the teams that are ahead of them. Who would the Broncos be willing to trade up with? A team like Atlanta. You know, Broncos have the assets to give a team like Atlanta a Bradley Chubb or a good defensive player. I think that a swap with Atlanta would be pretty smart. Who else? Detroit. You know, we don't know who would be available at 7, but we can tell you that pretty much, considering that Fields, Wilson, and Lawrence are off the board, Trey Lance would still be open at the number 4 pick if Denver were to swap. I do see Denver making a move, perhaps, but I think right now they don't know what they want in terms of that. But I can't sit and say that Drew Lock is there's nothing there, but I can't sit and say that he's the guy you want to build around. I really don't. Number 10 is the Cowboys. The whole entire defense sucks. Sean Lee just announced his retirement. The team could definitely go for a linebacker. I think that's what a team like the Cowboys needs to go for. There's no depth or corner. Defense is a problem. The whole entire defense for the Cowboys is a problem. This first pick has to be spent on defense. It'll probably be a linebacker, especially with Sean Lee. I believe he just announced his retirement yesterday. Or Eric, I think it was Sean Lee. Did Sean Lee announce retirement? Maybe I was mixing it up. Number 11 is the Giants. Wide receiver, or they can build around Jones. Perhaps a running back. Now, we say running back because here's what I mean. A lot of people say, why would the Giants draft a running back? They have Saquon Barkley. Yeah, they have Saquon Barkley, but does Saquon Barkley stay on the field? If Saquon Barkley has another crucial injury this year, people are going to start to scratch their head and say, well, this guy's got astronomical talent, but he's always hurt. He's always hurt. Definitely a wide receiver would be something the Giants go after. We don't know if, there's quite a few good wide receivers in this draft class. We don't know if somebody like Jamari Chase would be someone that they would get. Probably not. Devontae Smith. And the other guy, I completely forgot his name. There's a third wide receiver on Alabama, too. It'll come to me later. But I think the Giants could go for... I would probably go for a wide receiver for the New York Giants. Just build around that, you know. You need more depth at wide receiver if you're a New York Giants fan. Number 12 is the Eagles. They should be all in on a wide receiver. They also need to build on some of their defense. Their defense has been underwhelming. But, man, this Eagles team has not had a real solid wide receiver since the beginning of time. A team like the Eagles needs to grab a wide receiver. Again, I don't see a team like the Eagles trading up. Most teams wouldn't trade up for a wide receiver. It's all gonna depend. These first 10 picks are gonna be very interesting because there's a lot of guys in this draft that you don't really know which you're gonna get, and a lot of teams that could trade up. The first 10 picks are definitely always the most interesting, but they feel more interesting here because you don't know which coming from where. Is this team gonna draft this guy? This team needs this. This team needs to trade up. This team needs to trade down. All of that jazz. Getting slammed last year. The team also is not too deep on a corner. Chargers should probably look at a lineman to help Herbert. The offensive line is not that great. There are some holes on the defense for the Chargers, but I would probably go for a lineman if I'm a Chargers representative. The Minnesota Vikings. You know what's funny about the Minnesota Vikings is that at 14, this team used to have one of the best pass rushes in the league. I remember all the guys. They lost a lot of them. The pass rush was non-existent, kind of like the Titans. The offensive line needs help at well. A team like the Vikings at 14 should probably look at an edge rusher, or not an edge rusher, a pass rusher. Well, same thing, actually. Pass rusher or an offensive lineman. The Vikings, have some holes, but they're not one of those teams that's going to be prominently looked at in the draft. And then we get to a team that could trade up, and that's the New England Patriots at 15. The Patriots have actually gotten... You know, it's funny you talk about a team like the Patriots. They re-signed Cam Newton because they wanted to give him another chance. Now that they built around him, the team likely could draft a quarterback if they were to trade up. Wide receiver depth is not there. So I would say with the first pick, the Patriots, I've heard a lot of people say Mac Jones. I could definitely see the Patriots making some moves and trading up. Again, they built around Cam Newton and the Patriots very well this offseason. They signed a lot of guys, Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry. What's the other one? Edelman obviously announced his retirement, so that's going to be one of those guys that's very hard to replace. Great wide receiver. Is he a Hall of Famer? His peers will probably say that he is. He may not have the numbers consistently to be a Hall of Famer. But in my eyes, Julian Edelman was an extremely valuable wide receiver and definitely might be in that conversation. But I would say that the Patriots trade up and get a quarterback. I could see that happening. Number 16, the Cardinals. Peterson getting older. And didn't Peterson, I believe if I saw this, just signed with Minnesota the other day. They need help at corner, and they always have the questions at running back. Kenyon Drake came in for the Cardinals and was a ball of fire, and then he just completely flatted out. For the Cardinals, for me, it's a corner or it's a running back. The running back depth is not there. They had a couple of years ago, they had those couple of flashes, those first half of the season with David Johnson, and then nothing really came of that afterwards. Peterson getting older, like you say. And Peterson obviously is on Minnesota now. So what do you do with that? I think the Cardinals draft a corner. I think your defense will always be more valuable than offense. There's a lot of guys that can come in and be a decent running back, but it's hard to find a great corner in this game. So I would go with the corner if I'm a Cardinals fan. The Raiders at 17. Some questions with the Raiders. They need an edge rusher. They need safety depth. They need a good position pass rusher. This is going to be a team that's going to be heavy on the rush. Going into the draft, the safety, obviously, they have Jonathan Abraham, but he's always hurt. That is that. Dolphins have their second pick of the first round at 18. The team needs playmakers, like I said. I'm assuming that the top receivers will already be off the board by then, but if they were to draft a receiver early, they can use this to build a line. I would say that their second pick would probably be a lineman if I'm the Miami Dolphins. 19 is Washington. Another team that could desperately trade up. They started to build a good defense, but their offense is a complete bag of chips. I would definitely say that Washington has to draft a quarterback. They have nothing. They have nothing. Alex Smith retired. Dwayne Haskins was sent to Pittsburgh. It's the guy who's their starting quarterback right now. It's the guy that played a few snaps in the playoffs. Washington is screwed right now. They also need a wide receiver. Washington is a team that needs 2 first-round picks. Quarterback definitely for Washington football team, which I hate calling him. I'm not calling him that. Washington could probably trade up, but they may have to give up something valuable on defense. So I don't know if they would be willing to do that. And they definitely need a receiver because outside of Terry McLaurin, this team has really nothing going on. Washington is a team that you want to watch in the draft. 20, Chicago. The team has needed a quarterback for the last 27,000 decades, and it doesn't change this draft. The Bears need a quarterback. Who's available? My guess is as good as yours. But if I'm Chicago, man, I'm sweating because there's quite a few good quarterbacks. Another team that could trade up for years. 21 is the Colts. Pass rusher, definitely. But I think, in all honesty, I'd go for a receiver if I'm the Colts. I'd go for a receiver because Ty Hilton is a great receiver, but he has injury-plagued history. And outside of that, the receiving core, they have Michael Pittman Jr., okay, but I don't think a receiver would hurt. But everybody loves a pass rusher, so the Colts might be willing to gamble on that. 22 is the Titans. And as a Titans fan, I can tell you this right now. We need an edge rusher, pass rusher. Pass rusher needs to be the first priority in the draft, and after that, you go after other things. We need a tight end. I love if we could just take Kyle Pitts, and then we could just take the best edge rusher. There's quite a few good edge rushers in the draft, but the Titans, they got to go for a pass rusher, man. We had no pass rush last year. Awful in sacks. Clowney, 9 games, no sacks, went down with a knee injury, and just like that, he's on a different team. Yeah, man, we need a pass rusher. Don't worry about the tight end after. Our tight end, I don't know what our second pick is, but we'll probably end up getting a tight end at some point in the draft, but it won't be Kyle Pitts. 23 is the Jets. The Jets have a second-round pick. The Jets have 2 first-round picks. So they already got Zach Wilson. The offensive line is dog, and so is the defensive line. The Jets could decide at 23 what they want. Do they want to continue to build the offensive line, which I would do if I was them. If I'm the New York Jets, I'm building my offensive line. And then you worry about the defensive line. A team's defensive line is terrible too. But I would probably go for a lineman for the Jets with their second pick in the first round. We get to the Steelers, 24, another team that could potentially trade up. A lot of people say they need to build the O-line. Very true. But they also need a running back. James Conner left. There isn't the type of depth at running back they once had. I think if I'm the Steelers, I'd maybe eye a running back because it's going to put a lot of pressure on the passing game, and that's not going to be as sufficient if they need to build the O-line as well. I would say the Steelers would probably look towards an offensive lineman or a running back at 24. And the 25 is the Jaguars, their second pick of the first round. After Lawrence, the team should get a defensive lineman or a playmaker tight end, O-line also. Yeah, for the Jaguars, it would probably be a lineman in any way, shape, or form to obviously protect Lawrence. And their tight end position is lacking. I forgot who the tight end of Jacksonville is. Off the top of my head, 26 is Cleveland. Build the offensive line, man. I feel like the Cleveland Browns offensive line has been terrible forever. You can build the offensive line, maybe add another pass rusher, or a wide receiver. I feel like the depth at wide receiver for Cleveland is not what it used to be or not what it should be. But I would probably do something similar to that, but I'd build the offensive line first. 27 is the Ravens. Let's give Lamar Jackson another playmaker. We know how Lamar loves his highlights and how a team like Baltimore loves highlights. At 27, I think the Ravens should probably go for a wide receiver. A pass rusher wouldn't hurt. Pass rusher never hurts anybody. But I would probably most likely go with that as a receiver. 28 is the Saints. Team needs a linebacker or safety. The team also could be looking at a wide receiver. Want to add a little bit of depth outside of Michael Thomas. But if you're the Saints, you want to continue to build that defense. Some holes, linebacker or a safety, either or. 29 is the Packers. The corner depth for the Packers is not as good as it should be. A linebacker as well wouldn't hurt a team like the Packers. Linebacker, tackle, or corner for Packers. We know we get to these teams late on in the first round where they're pretty good, well-around teams, and they don't need as much as some other teams. Draft pick number 30 is Buffalo. What does a team like the Bills need? Help Allen with that offensive line. Or get a corner. I think a team like the Bills should go after a corner. Josh Norman's getting older. This team's, their secondary or their safety tandem might be fantastic, but their corners are not necessarily as great as they should be. So I think the Bills might go after a corner. Ravens have another pick number 31. At this point, the Ravens have already, assuming they get a wide receiver, give them an offensive lineman, continue to help protect Lamar. And the final pick in the first round is the Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Build on the edge. The team's pass rusher is good, but their defensive line is not as good. So if I was Tampa Bay, I might go after a defensive lineman. I don't think they need an edge rusher. They could do that, but you get a pass rusher. When you're a team that's pretty much well set, you always want a pass rusher. But that's all it is for the first round, folks. Didn't get in as depth as a lot of other people could get into as depth, but I hope everybody enjoys the NFL draft. We're going to be dropping more content here soon. As always, continue to stay safe.